Welcome to another episode of Small School Big Tech, or rebootED, depending on which channel you're seeing this on. My name is Andrew Schwab. I'm your co-host today, and I have a distinguished panel, well, a notorious panel anyway. Starting off, I will introduce my regular co-host, one of the mics, Mike Volmert. Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Going great.
And my other regular co-host, Mike McBoo. Hey, Mike. McBoo.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. And joining us today, I asked a couple people to hop in because we all just got back from the annual CETPA conference, which is the California Educational Technology Professionals Association conference in, where were we? Sacramento. Larry Rigo, IT Director for Hilmar Unified, is here. Hey, Larry.
How are you?
Good. Thanks for hopping in. And we have John Schuster from the, I got to look because it's Ross Valley School District, currently a Tech 2, but longtime watcher of the show and previous Lone Ranger as the IT Director at Willits. So thanks, John, for hopping in.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's see. I was at CETPA for like a week. I got there on a Monday. They had an executive what was it? An executive pre-conference where basically we got scared by lawyers talking to us about the new student privacy laws, the 3 that were passed or signed by the governor. And so it was a long week for me. But I guess I just want to go around the table and see what did you guys see as the trends for this year's conference? Anything stick out at you as either different or new, or just a continuation of what we've seen? And I'll start with Dr. V in the lower bottom right.
I don't know that I saw anything trending different than last year. Lots of vendors, lots of IT guys. Lots of sessions on IT stuff. There was a strand at Google this year, which I thought was kind of interesting.
I'm curious okay, my impression may have been a little different then because I actually had a couple tech guys there, and I didn't find that the sessions were necessarily as technical as they've been. It seemed to me that they were really more geared towards, I don't know, it just seems like there was more of a leadership strand, and like you said, there were Google, but it seemed like more ed tech to me than anything else. What do you think, McBoo?
Well, I thought...
I'm curious.
Okay.
My impression may have been a little different then, because... So somebody's got us streaming in the background. I can hear us looping back through. I didn't find that the sessions were necessarily as technical as they've been. Gotta love those technical details. They were really.
Yep.
I don't know. What happened?
You may have had us open in the background,
yeah.
So you're looping it through.
All right. Well, I didn't. My take was there's a lot more leadership, more towards higher levels. I went last year and I went this year. I really didn't see the big tech push I saw last year. I mean, there's a lot more. I think there's a lot more Microsoft things, how-to sessions. I kind of felt that the Google was a little bit overview, but it was more of this is what we're doing, not necessarily this is how you do something.
Well, and I think that was another thing that we kind of talked about at the end there. Was the focus on more, this is kind of what you could do, and not necessarily how or any kind of detail, right? It was all like kind of high overview stuff. I don't know, Larry, you caught some sessions on Friday. Were they more overview, or did you get an idea of how you might be able to implement something when you got back?
Yeah, for the 3 whole sessions I went to, one of which was a presentation, but yeah, I tend to agree. I looked through that paper pamphlet that they gave me. I repeat, on paper, but anyway. As I was looking through there trying to figure out what I was going to do on my Friday morning, I agree. Most of this stuff seemed like more overview, more of here's some cool stuff we can do. Not as many tech-oriented stuff as in like even the hands-on session where hands-on Google Classroom or hands-on Google Apps, signing up and stuff like that. It was very, very, I don't know whether to say high level or low level, depending on which way you look at it, but not a whole lot of tech detailed stuff, more for the overview stuff. But a lot of the stuff looked interesting. I went to a couple of them that were pretty good, but again, I agree with you guys. More of a overview.
Yeah, it just had a different feeling for me for whatever reason. How about you, John? I know you've been going to CETPA for a while.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing for me is because I could not attend last year, I noticed a drastic difference between iPad-esque to Chrome. That was pretty startling for me. In a good or bad way, depends how you look at it, but I think there was definitely a momentum shift there. And I also think that some of the sessions that I attended, it was interesting that there was a little more focus on the evolving IT, ET department, whether or not it, some schools where it falls under literally sometimes a maintenance department through your CBO, and then other departments it does actually fall through maybe the superintendent administrative side, and the ET and IT departments seem to blend together instead of, as in some sessions they pointed out, where there's sometimes a lot of finger pointing as where the responsibilities end. And particularly one session, I'll try and give you the link later, but they talked about how that solution or coming together with those two departments is really where the future is if we're really going to get IT as we are evolving out of the server room, so to speak, and becoming part of the curriculum solution.
Yeah, and I think that's been something that CETPA is talking about for a while. But I definitely agree. There were quite a few, mainly I guess in the leadership sessions where they were talking more about that, and well, even in my session where I was talking PD plan. So Mike Vollmer, how long have you been going to CETPA? Was it the CTO program that was your first, like 3 years ago?
No. I've been going to CETPA for, the first one I went to was about 10 years ago, but this is 5 in a row that I made.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Your name was up on the thing, and you didn't get your little gift. Because so I've been going since I think 08, 09, sometime around there, and it seems to me that back then it was a lot of technical sessions. I remember it was like how to implement VMware and how to virtualize your server room and how to migrate Exchange.
I think I was in on that one.
Well, yeah, and back then I was thinking about, well, wouldn't it be nice if there were some more EdTech-like sessions? And it was weird to go in there this year and think, wow, where did all the tech sessions go? Because these all seem like they're EdTech sessions now.
Yeah, other than a couple shootout things, they didn't have the hands-on labs and those sorts of things like they've had in past years. But last year was kind of that way too, wasn't it? I mean, a lot of ed tech kind of stuff, a lot of integration stuff.
Yeah, and like John pointed out, which I totally forgot, last year was much more iPad heavy.
A lot of iPads and iOS stuff, not so much this year.
Right, definitely. And it was, I think the Google trend is kind of something that's a little bit wider than just CETPA. It seems like everybody's kind of, I don't know, except for Mike McBoo at LeGrand is rethinking their iPad strategy. What's up with that, Mike? How come you're stuck on those iPad things?
The rethink is not because of what they're not doing for our students, because they do a lot. The rethink is because of the technology that keeps on coming up is in the future will be hitting it hard to see what it can do. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose a class of technology because Apple keeps on upgrading and forcing upgrades, and I have no backwards compatibility as far as vendors, because every time they update their stuff, they don't push out the updates are on 2 platforms. They only do 1 platform. So it's not that I don't like the technology or what it can't do for the school. It's that I'm going to be left hanging, I feel, or I fear, at that point. And so I need to find something that is more fluid and can grow. And we're not locked into iPads. It's just that that's something that was started. And it's something that worked really well for us in the beginning. It still works well now. On the education side, it just bites from the management side.
Yeah, and way to throw that subtle zinger at me for starting the iPad thing.
I wasn't going to name any names.
Someday somebody's going to figure out an enterprise way of managing tablets, but not today.
I think Google has mostly with Google Play. I mean,
Only if you buy a couple specific devices.
right, and that is an issue too. But and also there's still a limit on number of users per tablet.
But you're looking at managing a very consumer level device as an enterprise device, and it's just it might happen. There could be something that kind of jerry rigs it together and makes it function, but I don't see the point of really forcing that kind of management down. The only really thing that would make it nice and easy is not really a control like group policy for Windows, or I can't remember the Mac. Was it Mac Manager? Whatever. I'm probably dating myself by saying that, but to manage a tablet, it would just be nice to just have a list of tablets, and you can put them in some kind of group and add and remove apps. Maybe not even remove apps, but just to be able to push stuff onto them, and that's about it. Because really, with a tablet, there's not a whole lot of management that needs to be done or should be done. It's a
management in the old school sense isn't what I was talking about. It's configuring them out of the box and then dealing with adding apps.
Oh yes, out of the box too. Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's another very, very fun process to go through that entire setup process.
Yeah.
Although Google made it pretty cool with their Nexus tablets. You set one up and then you just get the two together and on you go. That's kind of a cool idea, but again.
And then they got rid of the Nexus 7, so there you go.
Yeah. You get locked into theirs and then they stop making it. Whatever.
But my point is, it just can't be that hard to do that sort of thing. Why only 3 tablets? Why can't you do it with pretty much any tablet?
Yeah, seriously.
I'm wondering if there's some kind of licensing deal going on or something.
There's some sort of background going on. Shenanigans. It's got because technically there's no real reason.
Right.
Well, it's because they're making all their money off of the home users with their kids that spend money on apps that their parents didn't say they could buy. They're not making as much money on people like us.
I think it was interesting in the MDM arena where they, and again, maybe this is because of my gap from not attending last year, but what I also noticed is that they're also, most of the vendors are targeting how to assist a teacher or the representative at the front of the class, how they're going to manage their class. They started using taglines like, instead of locking people in, they're going to focus them onto a certain area. So I think having multiple devices and having an MDM be able to address that need, that's going to be really interesting. So I'd like to see what happens there, but it seems like another interesting trend.
Yeah, and I did pick up on that too because I was in the MDM shootout, and I find that a little bit disturbing because the last thing I want to give teachers is another management portal that they have to get into and another place for them to go and something else that we're going to train them on. And really that seemed to be the MDM companies, their big differentiator was, ooh, look at my teacher portal and look at all the things that it can do.
On one side. And on the other side, with the out-of-the-box sort of configuration stuff I was talking about, everybody is saying, we're sorry, we blame Apple because it's their API that sucks.
Right. We can't do anything else because Apple won't let us, basically.
Well, that's what Apple said, too. Their engineer basically said, well, we provide the frameworks, and our expectation is that you can play around with it, but if you want something more, go to these guys.
Yeah. And those guys usually cost money.
Yeah, that's Apple speak for we don't care, we don't have to.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to move on to what was your favorite session and why? And we're going to start with John.
I think it was the session. Of course, I don't have my notes in front of me, but the session that focused on basically the IT leadership team. And again, I'll look it up, but the school district that basically had a separate IT peer function and then an ET department that evolved over time. It was really cool to see that they realized that they were their worst enemies combating each other. And somehow, over time, they decided to merge those two departments, and it wasn't a smooth transition. But looking back at it, it was really cool to see them discussing where their weaknesses were and how when they combined, they could address those together as a team instead of in a separate siloed department or a separate chimney, so to speak. So that to me was really cool. And if it's one session, I would focus on that one. So it was really cool to see that team shift, because for me, that's where we're lacking, because we're only just over a couple thousand ADA, and we don't have a big enough structure to have the director position was folded into the superintendent's job about 2 years ago, and they haven't revisited that. So currently, we don't have a seat at at cabinet. We're trying to get what's called our network manager, who's again a classified employee, not an administrative level, into at least the administrators meeting that meets every week, because there's too much of the things that we work with are not funneled back to us directly. We hear through the grapevine, and it's just not functional. So we have a long way to go there.
Well, I'm wondering how much of that, and it's interesting because a lot of the bigger districts we're talking about, the ed tech team and the IT team, and having two separate organizations, or merging them and having them all fall under one person. But most of us, actually all of us right now, are from sub 6,000 student districts, and I don't think any of us have an ed tech team to speak of, unless I'm mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the challenge, I think, for us in that situation is we kind of have to be the ed tech folks, right? Unless, like Larry, who does ed tech at your site? Because I heard you talking about doing training for Google and all that stuff.
You're looking mostly at about 50% of our ed tech team. Although our district's done something interesting this year with all this Common Core money that kind of came in. Our district, which hasn't had an assistant soup in probably 15 years, created a curriculum director / tech training coordinator kind of thing for the Common Core stuff, even though really it's kind of grooming the person to be an assistant superintendent. But it's an interesting take on it. So a lot of the stuff that I get forwarded to me in various trainings, I just, instead of me pushing to principals saying, hey, look, this is really cool, you really need to send teachers here, and they go, yeah, that's great, thanks, and they delete it. I send it to this new person, and she goes in and researches it, kind of looks at what could be beneficial, particularly to our district. Then we get together. So there's more of a differentiating opinion now, where I have somebody who was an administrator, who was a teacher, that can sit with me and the other team that I have, who was also a teacher, and kind of bring that together. So we actually have a little bit more of an ed tech team-ish thing going. But in the past, this is my 12th year, so in the past 11 years, it's really just been me trying my best to kind of see what would fit. I go to the various conferences, I talk to people like you guys, and kind of get hints and ideas and tips to kind of throw at teachers, and then try to do training and whatnot. But the training is really just me and the other guy in my office. That's just about it.
Yeah. And then Volmert, was there an ed tech department at Rio when you got there?
There wasn't even a technology department at Rio when I got there. Basically I came into nothing. Hired 2 guys. We just hired a third, and we just hired a second teacher on special assignment. This one specifically dedicated to ed tech. So that's really our first movement in the direction of tech integration and actually working with teachers and stuff in the classroom, other than the PD that we've done in the past, which really was just kind of me.
I bet teachers are happy about that.
Oh, they're ecstatic.
Yeah.
And
And
I like
then,
training sessions.
yeah, well, we're in the same boat. We basically, when I got there last year, so only been a year, um, I was basically running all the Google trainings and all those things. And then at the beginning of this year, we hired a TOSA for instructional technology, and she's been out now doing trainings in the classroom with teachers and some staff development out of the site. So that's been really nice. And then Mike, even at little tiny LeGrand, and I say tiny with,
Micro.
that's from the heart. You guys have gone down the road of kind of differentiating some ed tech from some tech.
Yeah, I think when I stepped in, I wanted to focus more. I've always been, as a teacher and a lead trainer at my old district, always been focused on getting away from the old, this is technology, this is how you use technology, to, we've all been to the classes enough, so I'm saying, okay, this is what we're doing today to support your classroom, and let's take a look at what you are doing in the classroom and how we can use this tool to move you along. So instead of showing how to collaborate on Google Docs, we just say we're collaborating on Google Docs, join now, and let the elbow partners in the staff development meetings go on. We also moved to, we have one teacher doing one period as a tech coach, and we started doing smaller sessions with their PD. So we're putting a lot of focus in ed tech, but not so much on the technology side, but so much on, this is a tool to do this job. Let's work with you to get there. So when a teacher says, well, I'm giving a test tomorrow, and we're going to go over that test, we'll say, well, let's see what we can do if you put Remind 101 in there with this, or if you can do with the back channel, or if you let the students lead the discussion and collaborate on Google Apps. So we've had a lot of success in that area.
Well, I think it was definitely a trend at the conference this year, was in people that I've talked to ramping up their ed tech departments, adding teachers on special assignment for instructional technology. So I think we're probably going to see more of that as we get further along with Common Core and all this technology that we're putting out into classrooms. So Mike, what was, Magboo, what was one session, or what was your best session takeaway from the conference?
I really enjoyed Tim Gorey's session.
Oh,
the first one
we're going to talk about Gorey's session now?
We're going to talk about Gorey's session, and but it was from the standpoint of ideas that you can take away as a manager and put in, which I feel is still very relevant, and it reminds me quite a bit. And I talked about this with you, Andrew. It reminds me a bit of some of the early podcasts when I was going back and forth to the Bay Area, of manager tools and that sort of stuff. So getting some good ideas to deal with people and relationships where IT folks just don't have that naturally come to them.
Yeah, I know, but like, really, we need to love everyone? That's
your take.
No, he actually has a slide that said. It's not like I made that up out of thin air.
But it's
the Fred factor. Come on.
That's true. I think he pulled a lot of. He got way more out of that CTO program than I did. So Gorey had a pretty good session actually about talking about leadership, and I think of all the examples we can point to in the state, he's doing an excellent job building out his team to support his district up there. So it was really good to hear him talk about that. All right, Volmert, I'm going to guess you're not going to go pull the love card on me. So what did you find most interesting?
I think the most interesting session I went to was Sergio Villegas's session on Google Docs and Google Drive. He had all kinds of things that all you GCTs know but don't share with anybody, but he let them all out of the bag, like how to customize your search window so you can search for docs online, how to use how to let kids publish documents to the web. So there's a whole other way to kind of collaborate between teachers and kids. Some really cool tools. And that's kind of an ed tech side. It wasn't really a technical seminar or an
Yeah, I
IT
was going to say,
seminar
it sounds
really
like
at all.
something you'd see at Q, right?
It is something that, I would much more have expected to see something like that at Q.
Did Sergio gear it towards IT folks, or did he just basically say, here's what you can do with Google?
No, it was, here's what you can do with Google. It really wasn't geared. It would have fit very, very well in a Google Summit or a Q conference session.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the more interesting things that I kind of saw this time around. And I don't know, maybe it is this, I've been talking about for a while that at some point it may stop being educational technology and may just become education, right? I mean, once we reach a certain saturation level and basic skill level, the technology stuff should just kind of fall to the wayside. We don't go around teaching people about pencils and paper anymore.
Right.
It's just kind of inherent. I think we're a long ways off from that, but it's interesting to see kind of the IT conference morph a little bit into more of an ed tech conference. Larry, I know you were only there for one day, but what did you see that you felt was worthwhile take home?
Well, of my 3 sessions that I went to, I actually went to Jim Klein's 8 a.m. session about forward learning, how he did the kind of a different approach to bring your own device, kind of, I guess, buy your own device. But I really like the way he developed his plan at his district, and I really like his overall overarching tech plan where they do PD a certain way, and they kind of bring their people together, not just staff about PD, but they bring the students, they bring other stakeholders, and they kind of bring them all together. And he had a really, really detailed, comprehensive plan. I really liked his approach. He kind of dumbed it down, cleaned it up, not to make it simple, but to make it digestible. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I didn't really have a whole lot to compare it to, but I liked it. I'm definitely going to steal it and give it to our new technology curriculum coordinator, I guess.
Yeah, his whole concept of buy your own is very interesting to me. He talked a little bit about it in our UberMix session on Friday too. I mean, the idea that you would basically set a district standard and say, if you're a parent and you want to buy this device, then your kid can bring it to school and take it home is kind of an interesting take on the whole thing. It eliminates that uncertainty as to what type of device you're going to face if you're a teacher and you open up BYOD, because I think that's one of the biggest challenges, right? You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, there's no way if you do true BYOD, unless the teacher is just rock solid and knows multiple platforms, there is no way a teacher can handle having 17 different devices of different types in a classroom and do anything effectively. I mean, you've got to have some kind of baseline standard. I mean, I guess Google Drive and Google Docs is a nice standard, but then you have to deal with it on multiple platforms and stuff. No, there's no way. You've got to standardize something. Otherwise, work just doesn't get done as easily as it could be. A lot of wasted time.
Yeah. Let's see. I've asked everybody, I think, except myself, and I can't actually remember any session that I was in.
The raffle.
Yeah, the raffle. What was really strange was that the closing session on Friday, because it was like in between the first session and the last 2. It really felt like it should have been at the end of the day. And then the other thing that was a little odd was the preview of the vendor floor Wednesday night, which, traditionally at a CETPA conference, Thursday is the vendor day, and you go on Thursday and walk through the gauntlet, as I call it, and say hi to all the vendors, and they scan your badge so they can spam you with all kinds of email.
That's why you have a temp email address for that.
That's smart. But this year they opened it up early they opened it up the night before for kind of a meet and greet / president's reception / vendor hall walk, and it was like, double the fun of that gauntlet having to walk through the vendors, and it was kind of odd. I don't know. What did you think about it, Mike? Did you go? Or sorry, Walmart.
I didn't go.
Smart. That's why you got the EDD on this panel.
Got the price.
I was actually kind of worried about that whole gauntlet sort of aspect. I had a number of vendors that I sort of had an agenda, so I wanted to hit them up.
But you saved that for Thursday.
I did. I saved it for Thursday.
Yeah. Magbu, did you go through Wednesday night?
I went through. There was a couple of vendors I wanted to talk to real quickly because I knew I wasn't really going to have a chance to talk to them on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to go through. The food was good.
Oh, yeah. It was crazy watching the line. It was like sharks circling the school of fish in the line for the food. How about you, John? Did you get a chance to go through early, or did you just...
Yeah, we hung around and went around that evening, and I think it was an interesting dynamic. I had assumed they had started that last year since I wasn't there, but obviously this was the first transition to that, and I think the vendors loved it because they got to meet people. You know, everyone had a long day, but at the same time there were snacks and beverages of all sorts. So I think people were a little more relaxed. I don't know if that's just because it wasn't like the morning of the gauntlet on Thursday, or if it was just because people just kind of felt relaxed and they didn't feel pressured, like, oh, well, I'll pop through here at the end of the day and then no big deal. But I thought it was a nice touch. I think the vendors probably appreciate it because, you know, they're paying, you know, $2,500 to be on per booth. So I think it was an added value to them. Again, assuming I don't know if they paid more for that, but the vendors I talked to that I know pretty well, they liked it.
Yeah. I didn't like it that much as a participant, but then I'm also the guy who usually didn't go to the president's reception. So when I went last year and it was really nice, this year I was kind of like disappointed because it wasn't so great. But maybe that's just my personal experience. Speaking of vendor floors, so I want to go and ask, did anybody see anything really interesting on the vendor floor? And I'm going to go to Walmart because I know he took home something that I'm really interested in, although I don't know how much play it will be there is with it in the Central Valley, but I think it actually, for low-income districts, is kind of interesting.
Are you talking about the MiFi thing?
Yes, of course I'm talking about the MiFi thing. What else would I be talking about?
Yeah, we've been working for a long time on finding a way for the kids in our district that don't have internet access at home, because we're now ready to start the process of setting everything up so our kids can take our netbooks home. We talked to this company, Kajit, out of Colorado a couple years ago, and they gave us a demo device, a little 4G MiFi hockey puck, but it ran on the Sprint network, and the Sprint network in Oxnard sucks, so it was basically a brick. It was a hockey puck. Now they've got the same device on here it is. They've got the same device on a Verizon network, and Verizon here is pretty robust. So I'm excited to test this thing when I get back to work tomorrow and take it around the district and see how it works at various neighborhoods. But
what's the cost model, Mike? What is? I mean, because we're talking.
It's
obviously going to be a per month cost.
It's a lease. Yeah, it's a per month lease. I think it's an annual lease, and I don't remember how much it costs. Less than $30.
Yeah. So basically the same concept of just giving every kid a 4G connection that needs it.
Yeah, and in our district, that's about 20 to 25% of our kids.
Interesting. And Mike, at LeGrand, you're doing one-to-one take-home with iPads. How have you addressed the internet access?
Well, we didn't. Basically, we put the devices in our students' hands, and we were assuming, based on that there's about a 35, 38% of the people at home had devices, and so we pretty much left it open. I've boosted Wi-Fi access and allow all the students to get access 24/7 of our Wi-Fi. We approached a couple of businesses, and they opened their Wi-Fi. The feeder schools have their Wi-Fi open for the students to get access. But it wasn't until we did a survey here where the students were reporting that 87% of them have internet access at home. So between that, the ease of phones, and the internet access going down to the $9.99 for the rural areas for a lot of people to get it on from the cable company, at least in La Grande. I don't know about Planada. That's pretty much all we did. We just buy Wi-Fi devices and let the students work with it. But we also have late buses so the students can work at school. And
is that something? Did you actually run late buses for that purpose, or was it for something else?
It was for the impact, but because we're taking advantage of it for schoolwork, then it's just something that we put into our LCAP planning. As part of the reasoning for that.
Right. Okay, Volmert, I kind of preempted you, but did you see anything else interesting on the floor that you think was worthy of sharing?
There were a couple kind of interesting little setups for tablets and netbooks. Not carts, but more like bins that you can put 8 or 10 of these devices in. I don't know that I'm going to buy them because they want a lot of money, but I got some cool design ideas to go to Target and get some bins and put a...
Yeah, the amount of money that they want for those type of things is kind of crazy.
Yeah, too much money. But the concept was really cool, and it's pretty simple to build something. So we're deploying about 8 to 10 little 7-inch tablets in each of our kindergarten and first grade classes. So I'm going to kind of steal that design idea and see what we can do kind of on the cheap. So we've got a place to charge them overnight.
Well, open source the plan when you do that, would you?
Yeah, no, I'll definitely put it on my blog. That's the blog nobody reads.
Oh, they'll read that.
The other thing that was interesting was nobody paid any attention to Dell's booth other than the MakerBots that they had on the side of it.
What? Dell's still in business? I didn't know.
Yeah, there's this company called Dell. They're selling MakerBots. I think they sell some other stuff too, but
MakerBot sells MakerBots.
Yes, probably for less than Dell does, but I didn't
with
talk about
an educator discount. Yeah. Yeah, it was funny. Those 3D printers seem to be all over the place. I'm waiting on Autodesk is supposed to come out with a inexpensive 3D printer, so I'm waiting for that to happen.
And Dremel's got one at Home Depot for $900.
Now, is that the little router?
No, this is a
CNC.
3D.
No, it's actually a 3D printer.
A 3D printer. They're also rumored to be coming out with a little CDC,
CNC. Yeah, the little. Yeah, those look neat. It's amazing. I like want to clear out my garage and just start making stuff. Okay, John, what did you see on the vendor floor? Because CETPA is basically about 3 things, right? The sessions, connecting with people, and walking the gauntlet. So what did you see?
It was interesting to see Chromebook, everything. Even Dell or everyone was trying to target that, and it was very odd. A large computer manufacturer, their biggest thing was a Chromebook version of it, and the margins must be almost nothing on it. I don't even know.
Hey, but at least it's something they can sell versus an iPad, which they had nothing to sell to. So
I know. For them, if margins are light, it's 30 per room. It's not 1 for a teacher. So there's something there. I also echo what Mike's saying about the ergonomics for trying to deploy multiple devices in a classroom. So someone, I can't remember where I saw it, but the concept of having proper discipline to line kids. A 30-student classroom, rows 1, please go to the cart. Step, and they march on by. And it just takes time. You know, if you've been in a classroom like we all have, those time stolen from instruction. So, Mike, I think you're on the right path, and obviously, I think we have to figure out a way to do it on the cheap, whether that's a small secure cabinet, one at each corner, so they don't have to all go to one corner, one cart. I mean, those are simple things, but as long as they can charge them and get to them in a non-chaotic manner, the teacher will appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, so I saw something interesting along those lines. Actually, I didn't see it because it wasn't there, so it may be vaporware. But Triplite was talking about coming out with a low-cost lockable charging cabinet for devices. And if you guys have priced out the kind of cabinets that people have been selling, retail $800 for a 16-unit, 4 pieces of sheet metal is kind of crazy. So I'm curious to see what the pricing is going to look like on that. Let's see. Larry did not get to go to the vendor floor, so I will not ask him. But Magboo, what did you see down there?
I wouldn't have gone anyway.
What?
I didn't really.
How else were you going to get pens? Look, check this out. I'll hijack this for a second. See this? This is the thing that my kids have been playing with nonstop since I got home.
Oh,
It's like it's a pen that does that, and they just keep doing that over and over and over again. So, all right, Magboo.
I didn't really find anything that popped out at me as an IT director, but I did find this one company called WeVideo, and it's cloud-based digital storytelling and multimedia video stuff. I mean, from the looks of it, it looks pretty good. So I'll let my let a teacher who's doing our video bulletins take a look at it. But it works with Google, your Google account, and students upload directly to YouTube, which we do anyways. So I'm kind of interested about. It's $250 a year for 50 users.
Well, that's interesting that you picked that one out, being that you're on iPads, because WeVideo has been something that people always point to me and say, this is how you do video editing on a Chromebook.
I was just going to say that, too. We got a couple of teachers that have been clamoring about it. They did it on their own with the private license, and they said, oh, yeah, it's the only way you can edit video on a Chromebook.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I take it is because, again, Apple, I got, we buy all these apps, and, I mean, after all the apps I purchase, I'm looking just at the purchase app. I'm pushing about 1,000 megs just for the, about a gig of apps just for the iPads, and they keep telling me that I have to do this MDM device, and the way they have it set up, that's just not going to be easy. So I'm looking for more solutions that I can utilize, and I'm kind of future looking ahead at what's going to be useful. I mean, I'm kind of excited what Adobe's doing with some of their Photoshop stuff and some of their apps as a streaming service or apps as a service, cloud-based service. So I'm looking forward to something like that. And so if I can test it out now and see if it works, and it works on a tablet base, and I personally don't care what the students are using, because as long as they're all using the same thing, my teachers aren't going to sit there and troubleshoot the student's device.
Yeah. So Magboo is the first IT director I've met that's trying to turn an iPad into a Chromebook. But that's cool. I like that. That's good.
Hey, give me a flash, I'll do it.
Give it a Jim Klein. We'll turn it into an UberMix device.
There you go.
Yeah, no kidding. But I think something you said, Mike, for me, when I was walking the vendor floor, to me it felt a lot more like a Q vendor floor this year.
Yeah.
A lot less, technical stuff. I mean, I remember there were still some of them there, the guys who were showing you the Panduit and the different cable connectors, and there was, I think, one server. Oh no, the server wasn't even down on the floor. It was kind of up. It was up in the
before you get into the session.
Box. Yeah. I mean, it was just. I think overall it was just really light on technology for me. The one thing that I saw, which I thought was really cool, but unfortunately I don't even remember what the vendor was, but like these headphones that I'm using, I don't know about you, but headphones for us have been crazy with the SBAC testing. And we've tried the cheapo earbuds, we've tried the cheapo over the ears, we've tried expensive over the ears. We've done all of that. And these, I've got two different sets, but these actually I should take them off, and they're like completely flexible. I can watch them break, but they seem to work pretty well on that as far as being able to beat them up. So I got some samples I'm gonna push out there.
No
And then,
earbuds. Our kids were way grossed out when they were talking about sharing earbuds. They're like, ew, no. So no earbuds for us.
if I could find earbuds that lasted, longer than 2 weeks or something, I think I'd go for them. These are actually, I think they were $20 retail. So I got to buy 5,000s or 4,000. So, pricing wise, I'm hoping to get people down. I have another set that's like, they were $7, and they're the little tiny ones that we basically.
These guys are
students.
This is from Caliphone, and this is the one I picked up. These are supposed to be about $7 or $8.
Yeah,
and
that's the range we got to be in.
They do that
flexible,
can't break it stuff too.
Yeah, Caliphone makes a good headset.
So we've got some Caliphones now that we bought several years ago, and they weigh about 12 pounds a piece, and so kindergartners' head just keeps going like this.
Yeah, the headphones weigh more than the tab or the Chromebook or the MacBook. And what else did I see? It's funny. I saw like all the vendors that I use, like the web-based, like Securely and Nimble Storage and our wireless vendors. So everybody was there. I don't know. It didn't feel like a tech SEPRA.
Yeah, the cool thing for me is, all the vendors are there. So I actually went with an agenda. I needed to talk to Synesis about some fiber optic stuff. I needed to talk to Securely about getting a pilot going. I needed to talk to our SIS folks. But having all of them there, you can just sort of, get your stuff done. And I really like the fact that everybody's there, and you can kind of engage those conversations and kind of deal with a lot of business all at the same time.
That's actually a really good point. It does make it nice when everybody's in the room and you can just catch up. So often it's so busy you can't catch up. Which takes me to, I guess, my closing thoughts here, and we'll just do a short roundtable. But there was something obviously missing for me, I think, during the conference. I did get to catch up with quite a bit of folks, although not as many as I would have liked. But I found myself in several of the sessions kind of wishing that the format was a little different. I've been going to a lot of ed camps recently, and the format in an ed camp is you all kind of sit in a circle and you all share out and talk and discuss. And I thought in at least, especially the panel sessions that we were both on, Mike and Larry, that a more discussion type format would have been maybe beneficial, because there were quite a few people in the audience that probably could have been on the panel as well. And so I don't know if that's just an evolving kind of thing or if that's the influence of EdCamp, but I found myself wanting more kind of an unconference time, maybe a little formalized with a room, not necessarily stuck in a hallway, but I think that was the one thing that I'd like to see maybe for next year. So with that,
that's an interesting idea. I wonder how CETPA would respond to proposing a session that was an unsession or a more open conversation.
Well, I'm going to try it for next year, so we'll see how they respond. Because I honestly think that even in that IT director future session we were in, we had a really good kind of open discussion.
At our last EdCamp, and you can't do this one because I think I might propose it, but we had one guy do a session called Things That Suck.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, he had a topic, interactive whiteboards, for example, and he had a timer. So he throws the topic up, and then you either say, this sucks or this doesn't suck, and so you form two camps, and then there was sort of a conversation about the pros and cons until the timer
How is
goes
it
up.
possible? Because everybody would have been on the This Sucks column with that topic.
Actually, there were people that thought that interactive whiteboards were the best thing since sliced bread. I don't understand why, but
That was the 50 and over crowd.
Or
well,
just
I
a
was the 50
smartboard
over
plant.
crowd, and I was on the things that suck side.
Smartboard plant.
So, I don't know.
No, that would be a cool session, I think.
But Chrome's book, iOS versus Android, Chromebooks versus netbooks, and that kind of stuff. It would be interesting to get different people's perspectives about how they're deploying these things.
Right.
I agree. Now I forgot who said it, but everything is Chromebooks.
Well, and I think more of the how too. That's the other thing that I would like to see would be more like deep technical dives about how you've done something, right? Like
the nuts and bolts session.
Yeah, more nuts and bolts sessions about
Yeah.
how you actually do something from start to finish. So, Magby, what would you like to see for next year if you're going to go back?
Like I said, I said about last year's swing, and this year's definitely is a nuts and bolts session or something, just a technical talk amongst peers. Because, I mean, one of the things I really, really miss being out in LeGrand is I don't have people I can talk tech to. I start talking tech and everyone's eyes glaze over and they just fall asleep or fall apart or I don't know what. And I don't have a chance to talk. I mean, to find, like when Larry jumped our session last time, he was able to bring some really cool ideas that we're able to move forward. And there's a lot of people out there that honestly have a lot of ideas, or they've come across something that we don't have, and is not in a presentation of a Google Classroom or presentation. But I just want to see something really geeky, seriously geeky.
Yeah. Larry, how about you? If you happen to go for more than one day next year.
My number one priority is for Andrea to stop selling my email address, but second on my list.
You used a fake one anyway, so what's the point?
I did this time, but I'm still unsubscribing from spam from the Monterey one, 2-3 years ago?
Yeah.
But I'd say a close second. I agree with what you said earlier. The face of education is changing, the classroom is changing, the paradigms are shifting constantly to it less of, which I'm going to steal this from a buddy of mine, less from the sage on stage to the guide on the side kind of thing. And so I think that'd be great to have more sessions, even more involved with the audience than the UberMix panel we did, where, like you said, maybe sit in a circle or something like that, where everybody kind of, brings their ideas to the table and really hashes out, this is what I do and this is why it works, but this is what I don't like, and somebody can come in and go, oh, well, what about this? How about that? I don't know. I think, talking tech, like Magoo said, more of a roundhouse, around the room discussion kind of stuff. Less present, more workshop-ish, hands-on stuff, except just discussion. But and maybe a little longer sessions for something like that, especially if it's going to be, really in depth. Here's how I use Google Classroom in my room, not just 40 minutes, but maybe an hour and 20 minutes or something, just a little longer.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. The sessions were really short. I mean, 45 minutes? I think they were 40 minutes.
Yeah, a little too short.
Yeah, that actually did seem a little condensed. So good point, though. How about John? What would you like to see in your 2015 CETPA conference?
I would really like to see, I think previous gentleman, a couple of you guys have alluded to it. What I would like to see is, CETPA is going to ask for feedback, and a lot of people, who knows what percentage, will provide that feedback about how they could improve it. But I hope that at some point they do break it. Let's say they break it into a dozen areas of focus, or where we're struggling, solutions we're trying to provide answers for, and then prior to them locking in that session, let's say it's going to be about iPad deployment, we as the recipients of those sessions can suggest topic agendas, or say, hey, let's focus on what I'm having a problem with. So maybe it's like kind of providing feedback, say, hey, we're going to have a meeting for our staff. So not on Friday, we don't meet for our staff meeting, but during that week, everybody start opening up a Google Doc and start putting up ideas, and then we're going to get a consensus for where you guys are feeling the pain. I don't know if it'll ever go there, but it would be great for us as techs going to these sessions to say, wow, we're going to have a session about iPad deployment nightmares, or having radius configuration nightmares. So, and then we target those, and again, it's more than 40 minutes. So something like that. I don't know how they could put that together, but.
Well, are there any other kinds of iPad deployments? I'm just asking.
Not yet.
No, yeah. No, but it'd be, yeah, no, I think the ability to have some input into what's going on rather than just get talked at, it's more collaborative, which is kind of what we're striving for. But, yeah, I think overall it's kind of scary, not scary, but, yeah, scary how much CETPA is morphing more towards what Q has traditionally been. At least this is my personal opinion. 5 years ago, I was asking for more ed tech and less tech, and now I think maybe the pendulum swung a little bit heavy the other way. Although, for the technical sessions, some of the things I heard in the iPad deployments, for example, where there weren't really a lot of answers, unless you happen to go to John Patton's session. So, maybe some of that is just the topics that we have, and realistically, how much is there really to deploying a Chromebook? And I think the further we get from on-premise to hosted stuff, the less tech there is to talk about, which is another interesting topic that we could probably spend the whole show on. But I wanted to just thank everybody for hopping on and doing kind of a post wrap-up of the CETPA conference. It's been it's been interesting watching it grow and transform, and appreciate your guys' perspective on the whole thing. So I'd like to thank John Schuster for hopping in. John is at, I had my page open, and where are you at? Ross Valley.
Ross Valley, not to be confused with Ross.
No, not to be confused with Ross. And he's at John Schuster on Twitter. Larry Rigo, IT Director from Hilmar Unified. That's in the Central Valley. They make great cheese out there.
Darn right.
He is at Larry Rigo on Twitter. Mike McBoo, IT Director at LeGrand Union High School District, that place none of us have ever heard of. And he is all UR Baser on Twitter. He also co-hosts Small School Big Tech with me whenever we happen to have time to do a show or have a topic to talk about. And last but not least, Mike Valmert805 on Twitter, who is my co-host on rebootED podcast. Actually, I think you're the official host, and I'm just the guy who pushes the buttons in the background. That's the way it is now, because I haven't been on the last 4 episodes.
You never read the books, man.
I never read the books. I don't pay attention to the guests. I just make sure that the buttons are pushed and the shows get posted. Our latest episode is up with Diana Laufenberg, she's just an amazing educator, and I really I'm bummed out that I missed the interview, but we got to have her back on because there was just so much good stuff there. So. And I, of course, am Andrew Schwab, and I am on Twitter at Another Schwab. I fixed the spelling about halfway through the show, and I blog at anotherschwab.com. And this has been another episode of whatever show this was. I'm not even sure. So we'll catch you next time, and I'll roll the music. And thanks, everybody.